All right, by now you should have taken your illustration that is inspired by a photograph, your abstraction that's inspired by a photograph. Remember, you could have done fragmentation, you could have done deconstruction, or you could have gone with alteration. And you're going to pick your favorite one, and you're going to trace this onto a fresh sheet of paper. So I'm going to take this one is my favorite, so I'm going to pick that one. And I'm just going to grab a fresh sheet of paper here. Now I want you to think about where you want to place it. So I could choose to have it high, I could choose to have it low, I could choose to change my direction. I'm just going to go with it pretty much right in the center. And I'm just going to retrace my design. Now for those of you whose image ended up a little bit smaller, instead of tracing, you might choose to just redraw your abstraction, because we want our photo inspiration to be a main focal point. We want it to be a large area of our design. Once you have your altered, simplified design traced onto your draft final paper, you're going to pick from the drawings that you did when you listened to the song that you're using as inspiration for this artwork. I'm going to go with the last one that I did, and what I really like about this design is the fact that the lines are intertwining, they're wrapping around each other, they're embracing. There's some lyrics in my song La Vie en Rose that talks about embracing and holding the person close, and that also fits the idea of the song is a lullaby and rocking my daughter and son to sleep. So I'm going to start by drawing this line that's going to wrap around. Now, one of the things you might consider is going off the edge of the page. Think about how you want it to interact. Now, since this is supposed to be the person, I'm not going to bring the line through it. I want that to be a negative void here. But I can think about where I want this line to kind of wrap around. Now for me, it's not enough to have the line curving around in the background. This is going to be a painting, so I need some places to have paint go, different colors. So I'm going to use kind of that wavy line, like the petals, and have it get narrower and wider. And maybe I'll bring kind of that petal look in, something like this. So I'm kind of combining the style of the lines with what I drew in here, as well as kind of the flowing lines and the way it intertwines and wraps around. So in my other demonstration, I mentioned how this was the sound of the strumming of the ukulele in the song, where there were two short ones and a long one. So what I noticed about this, though, is it feels really excited, or looks really excited or intense the way it's drawn here. So what I would like to try for my example is to still include that, but to tone it down a bit. So I'm thinking I'm going to draw this within this wider space here. I think I want a little more space here. So I'm going to do it more in this petal area here. And to make this still feel a part of that same area, I'm going to go ahead and add a few of them there. The next thing that I also want to include, I want to show the dot line pattern. So when she was singing, there were notes that she would hold out and then some shorter notes. But again, I want this to be a little bit more subtle. So I'm just going to add this with some smaller dots of that area. And I do want to include some of those up here as well, so that it all feels part of the same one. And then I might add some more of the dots within my altered design. And then when I am finished, I just want to double check. Do I have things that are different sizes? Does it feel balanced? Do I have everything on one side or not on another? Do I have some contrast between my shapes? So I have some round shapes, I have some contrast between my lines, so I have thick lines and I have thin lines. I have contrast between the thin areas of the line and the really wide areas of the line. I have some contrast between some smaller areas and some larger areas. I take it off the edge of the page to add some interest. I try and repeat things throughout, so I carried this detail here and up here. I've repeated the dots. I've repeated these like wavy lines, like edges of petals throughout it. So those are some of the things that you might want to consider as you are coming up with your final design.